The 4th year after marrying my sworn enemy. He got into a car accident and lost his memory. His mind is stuck right before our wedding. When he saw the ring on my finger, he let out a mocking laugh. Who'd be unlucky enough to marry you? I glanced at the bandage on his head and thought, buddy, if I tell you it's you, I'm afraid you'll pass out on the spot. Don't worry, I said. It's definitely not you. When did you even get married? 4 years ago. And what was I doing at that time? I smiled at him. Oh, you gave me a huge wedding gift. His eyes dropped. Impossible. But for some reason, his beautiful brows sank with a bit of gloom. Sure enough, even with memory loss, this guy is still hard to fool. With the kind of relationship we had, he'd never give me a nice gift. He'd sooner spike the food at my wedding banquet and turn it into a historic disaster. Watching him stare blankly into space, my hand moved faster than my brain. I reached out, pinched his cheek, and said, "Come on, let's go home." Go home. His eyes suddenly lit up, as if he'd just caught onto some hope. My mind raced to come up with a reason. Yeah. Didn't you know? Your family went bankrupt. You're my helper now. Henry, who'd been barely keeping it together, finally cracked, completely. I played along perfectly. I'd already warned the housekeeper and staff. Even talked to his parents. To make sure Henry could rest without stressing about the company, we decided to keep up the lie for a while. So when he was in the car, clinging to his last bit of hope, and called his parents to confirm, the only answer he got was, "Son, it's true. We really went bankrupt." He lowered his phone, eyes slightly red. The golden boy, the S-level elite everyone admired. Now reduced to someone with nothing left. After a long silence, he finally asked quietly, "So, what do I usually do in your house?" "Oh, lots of things. Laundry, cooking, serving tea, oh, and you have to wash my feet." The more he listened, the tighter his brows pinched. When he heard the washing feet part, he even turned his face away to stare out the window. His cold, sharp profile looked unexpectedly fragile in that moment. The kind of fragile that makes anyone sigh, poor thing. Inside, I was practically bursting with joy. I bit my lips so hard just to keep from laughing. Because normally, Henry is untouchably perfect, a man carved from marble, destined to shine. His whole life's been a highlight reel since birth. I used to joke that if I ever saw him with teary eyes, it would probably be at my funeral. He overheard that once and snorted, "Dream on. I'd only show up to set off fireworks." So seeing him like this now? Absolutely priceless. I clenched my jaw the whole ride home, barely holding back my laughter. When we got inside, I went to the study to deal with a pile of documents. But when I returned to my bedroom, I froze. Henry was standing there. And in front of him was a basin of warm water. He was zoning out, and in his hands, oh no, his pajamas. He's the sentimental type, can wear the same pair from college all the way into our 4th married year. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was the one who went bankrupt. He turned around when he heard me. For a moment, confusion flickered in his eyes. "Aren't you married? Why are my things in your room? And why does your room smell like my scent?" I stepped forward with a smile and tugged lightly on his collar, leaning closer. His ears flushed bright red. He turned away nervously. What are you doing?" My fingers traced over his firm chest. "After I got married, my husband stayed overseas most of the time. You know, it gets lonely. Sometimes I need someone around." He blinked, stunned. "So, I'm your side guy? Or your toy?" I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could say a word, he lowered his gaze. A dark emotion spread in his eyes. His voice was quiet. "A toy is fine too." Looking at how pitiful he seemed, I suddenly felt a little bad. Was I going too far? Henry's always been so proud. He wakes up, finds himself downgraded into a house helper. And now he thinks he's my secret fling. Was this too big of a blow? But the next second, he pulled me straight into his arms. With a fierce, unstoppable certainty. He kissed me. Hard, claiming, unhesitating. Even though he lost his memory, he definitely didn't lose his skills. He'd been in the hospital for half a month, which meant I'd been starving for half a month too. So the moment he kissed me, everything just exploded, and before I knew it, we were tangled up on the bed. I was right in the middle of, well, heaven, when he suddenly stopped. Frustrated, I looked at him, only to find him staring at the mark on the back of my neck. He reached out, touching it in a daze. This is mine. Yeah. If my husband finds out, it'll be a huge mess. I really spoiled you too much. Always letting you get away with trouble. He pressed his lips together, then suddenly went all in. He was so intense I had to keep begging him to slow down. In the moonlight, his eyes were full of something wild, desire he couldn't control, and a jealous fire burning underneath. He leaned down and bit at my neck, his voice low and rough. You like this? I do, just, easy, don't push so. Between me and your husband, who's better? Answer me. His teeth pressed hard, and his movements kept urging me to respond. In my hazy mind, I thought, it's not that I don't want to answer, dude. I just don't even know how to. Right before I blacked out, I felt him hold me tight, whispering something like a confession. Why him, and not me? And before I even knew it, I curled into his arms, like a habit burned into my bones. I rubbed against his chin and murmured softly, honey. The body I held, slowly turned stiff. When I woke up the next morning, I reached out for him out of instinct. But all I felt was a cold, empty space. I shot up immediately, wide awake. I ran out, and only after seeing him busy at the dining table did my heart finally settle. Habits really are terrifying things. When I sat down to eat, Henry and the other staff stood aside. I reached out to tug him over. Sit down and eat. You worked all night. Aren't you hungry? Teasing him came way too naturally for me. He awkwardly took a seat. Halfway through breakfast, he suddenly asked with a conflicted look. Your husband? Is it Isaac? I almost spit out my coffee. Almost. But I held it in. Seeing how lost he looked, how shaken. Yeah, Isaac really must have meant a lot to him before the accident. To be honest, Isaac was pretty much my first love. Back in college, he was the senior assigned to help new students. Unlike Henry, who had been the golden example adults used to compare me to since childhood. Henry and I had hated each other ever since we were kids. We once fought because we played house and argued over who got to play with dad. And from then on, we were sworn enemies. Unfortunately, our life paths kept overlapping. Wherever I went, he showed up too. We competed in everything. I learned piano, so he bought a Steinway. I took horseback riding lessons, he signed up the next week. I swore I never wanted to meet that idiot again. When applying for college, I specifically said, I'm going to University A. He snorted, then I'll go to University B. And yet, we ended up staring at each other at University A's front gate. I told him he was like a lingering ghost. He said, sorry, I only came because I got bumped from my first choice. Please, University A's score is higher than B's. What kind of bumping is that? Once campus life began, we went our separate ways. I got swept up in the crowd. When I turned around, Henry stood tall above everyone, easy to spot with his looks and height. I almost called out to him. But a pretty guy rushed up to him, cheeks red, shyly asking for his number. Henry lowered his eyes, sunlight catching in them like gold. This audio is originally produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. Please credit when sharing. My voice froze. I turned away. I never found out whether he gave his number or not. And that was when I met Isaac. He smiled gently at me and asked, "Hey, freshman. What's your major? Which class?" He was nothing like Henry. I confessed to him after a club outing. We'd gone to an amusement park, and I challenged him to an archery game. They were giving out tons of stuffed animals. I said, "No way you'll win more than me." That night, under the lights, he seemed even softer, gentler. The breeze lifted his hair as he said, smiling, "You'll definitely win. Because the little plushies probably only want to go home with someone pretty." I was stunned. Some people give up so easily, just because I want to win. I confessed that night. He said yes. Isaac was a great boyfriend. He bought me breakfast. Prepared gifts for every date. Even when overloaded with lab work, he still found time to surprise me. If not for what happened later, maybe Henry and I would have never ended up together. Thinking of that, I couldn't help glancing at Henry's side profile. My silence must have looked like confirmation. Henry looked at me for a moment, then lowered his gaze. After a long while, he murmured, "I get it." I was used to seeing him arrogant and unstoppable. But seeing him now, so small, so defeated, made my chest ache a little. "I mean, actually, you." "I know. I have no status. Why would I get jealous? I'm the side guy. I know my place." He lifted his chin at a stubborn 45-degree angle, staring at the ceiling like a tragic hero. And of course, Henry being Henry, he adapted way too well. Barely a week after we mentioned Isaac, Isaac really came back from overseas. He joined a partner company as the leader of a research team. When I saw him again, he'd shed the boyishness of college. He looked more mature, polished, elegant. He sipped his coffee, still speaking in that gentle voice. "George, I've always felt I owe you an apology." Back then, I hadn't understood his decision to go abroad. I said I would go with him, even change my major. For the first time, he got serious. "George, I don't want you to change your whole life for me." "Why not? You're an Omega. That path would be too hard on you." "So what? Evan can go with you just fine, just because he's a beta. You two spend every day in the lab together, and now you're even going abroad together. Did you fall for him?" He said. "That's because this is already the path he chose for himself. But you're different, George. This was never part of your plan. Don't make this choice for me. I can't carry that weight." But back then, I couldn't handle the thought of being apart. A 12-hour time difference. 12,000 kilometers. So I said, stubborn and absolute, "Take me with you. Or break up with me." And the rest was history. He went abroad with someone who shared his goals. I stayed behind. I used to hate him for it. Thought he'd changed. But later, I realized, no one can live someone else's whole life for them. Isaac wasn't wrong. I shook my head with a small smile. "It's not your fault. I was young and clueless." He looked at me carefully. "And, have you been happy these years?" I nodded. His gaze dropped to the ring on my finger. "I mean, truly happy. I thought of someone at home. How he wanted to follow me out today and I said no." And he instantly curled up on the bed like a sulking little spouse, muttering, "Yeah, of course. I'm just the secret affair nobody should see." I couldn't help laughing. "I'm very happy." A flicker of disappointment passed through Isaac's eyes. After a pause, he said, "I actually heard about your sudden marriage, 2 months after we broke up. I thought about coming back for you. But it was already too late. I always felt you made that decision because of me. That you married someone you hated. Maybe." He lifted his head, looking straight into my eyes. Clear. Serious. Almost hopeful. Maybe everything can still be undone. His words startled me so much I knocked over my coffee. The hot liquid splashed onto my hand, instantly reddening my skin. Isaac stood quickly and grabbed my hand. A loud clatter came from the doorway. Through the small opening of the door, I saw a handsome face. Great. It's my unlucky, amnesiac husband. And he definitely heard everything. From where he was standing, it looked exactly like Isaac was holding my hand tenderly, the two of us sharing some emotional moment straight out of a romantic drama. Henry's eyes turned red, his beautiful lips pressed into a thin line. He looked like he was on the verge of tears, fragile and heartbroken. From his point of view, he had just walked in on a classic scene. The secret lover, climbing his way up with looks. Getting caught by the real spouse returning home unexpectedly. And now, as the powerless outsider, he had to swallow it in silence. His voice was hoarse. Sorry to interrupt. Then he turned to leave. Hey, Henry. I yanked my hand away from Isaac and hurried after him. His legs were too long, I had to jog a few steps just to catch him at the elevator. An angry Henry is harder to handle than a runaway bull. The employees all pretended to work, but their ears and eyes were definitely locked onto our drama. I'd chased him halfway across the floor, and by now my patience was thinning. I grabbed his wrist and spun him around. I swear, can you just... But the rest of my words died in my throat. His eyes were red, brimming with hurt, and my heart got punched clean through. All my irritation collapsed. I instinctively cupped his face. Oh baby, what happened? Who upset you this badly? He swatted my hand away. Your husband is back. I'm leaving. No, listen. I hesitated. Maybe I should just tell him the truth already. You're my real husband, you dramatic little disaster. Sure, his fragile and hurt look was kind of adorable. But seeing him this devastated made my chest tighten. Actually, you're the one. Henry, long time no see. Isaac appeared right on cue. He held out his hand. Henry glanced at it. And in that second, all his earlier sadness vanished. He switched back to cold, aloof, dignified. He refused to lose face. Even if he was the supposed side guy, he was going to be the most elegant side guy in history. He shook Isaac's hand. Long time no see, senior. Everything looked normal. Except Henry's grip was so tight his knuckles turned white. Isaac blinked, confused. We broke up 4 years ago. Why the death grip? Still, he politely said. Let's have dinner together. And that's how the three of us ended up sitting at the same table. The definition of awkward. Back in college, after Isaac and I started dating, I barely saw Henry anymore. There was one time I ran into him when I came home. He was leaning against his car, smoking a cigarette that smelled like orange blossom. The same scent as my own. Strange. I'd never seen him smoke something like that. Through the haze, he looked at me, then crushed the cigarette under his shoe. He asked. You really like him? What else? You want me to like you instead? How am I worse than him? You're worse in every way. The moonlight fell over his features, making him look lonely. He let out a quiet "I see," got in his car, and drove away. After that, we barely ran into each other anymore. Turns out two people who always seemed destined to clash can also completely miss each other once one of them stops trying. 7. Trying to play the good host, I let Isaac order the dishes first. But after he named a few items, Henry's expression went ice cold. You don't know he doesn't eat spicy foods anymore? Isaac froze with the menu in his hand. Sorry. I didn't know. Of course. Because you don't care about him. Even Isaac, king of emotional intelligence, looked completely baffled. His face basically said, "How am I supposed to care? I'm the ex. You are his husband. What do you want from me? Tell me." Seeing Isaac stunned only made Henry angrier. He shot me a glance. The kind that screamed, "You married someone who doesn't even pay attention to you. Are you blind?" He turned back to Isaac. "So you've been abroad all these years?" Isaac nodded. "Yes, leading a research team abroad. Only came back now because things have finally stabilized. So work is more important than him." Well. Do you even know how he's been living all these years?" Even I was startled. Wait. How have I been living? Then it hit me. In Henry's mind, I was basically a poor spouse abandoned at home. My husband gone for years. Neglected and lonely. So miserable that I had to find another alpha to take care of me. Honestly, it did sound tragic from his angle. Isaac looked confused too. "No. I don't really know. I'm sorry." Something about this whole scene felt deeply wrong. I quickly shoved food into Henry's bowl to shut him up. He lowered his gaze, watching me help him, thinking deeply. You're listening to Omegaverse Tales Studio, a YouTube channel dedicated to captivating short stories. Let's continue. Then something sparked in his eyes. A bright, dangerous little spark. Uh-oh. What is he plotting now? He suddenly said, firm and confident. That's why you'll eventually lose him. Because compared to you, he cares more about me now. And just like that, I realized what that spark was. The confidence of a side lover challenging the official spouse. Isaac looked even more confused. He was practically a question mark at this point. But Henry had already made up his mind. He was determined to rise to the top. He kept filling my glass, adding food to my plate. And even wiped my mouth with a napkin. Way too enthusiastically. Isaac calmly observed our chaotic showcase of affection. His expression didn't crack once. An acting master. When we said our goodbyes, Henry went to get the car, and Isaac said to me, I was worried that you might not be happy now. At the time, I just acted on impulse when I married him. Looking at you now, you two seem really good together. There's a saying about luck and accidents, this feels like one of those. I smiled, yeah, we're really good. Isaac's lips curved slightly. George, honestly, coming back this time. I was torn. I worried you weren't happy, but also worried you might be too happy. Seeing you now. I feel glad. You're happy, and that makes me happy too. I pretended not to catch the faint sadness behind his words, waving him off with a smile. As you hoped, I really didn't change my life because of you. We both have better lives now. On the way home, Henry noticed Isaac wasn't with us and let out a small sigh of relief. But the next second, he scowled. He's back in the country and doesn't even come home to see you. I nodded. His brows furrowed. What kind of husband is that? Why would you even want him? Not sure if I should say anything. But as soon as we got home, he threw me onto the bed, and kisses rained down like a storm. His words were slurred but full of dissatisfaction. What do you even like about him? Why don't you divorce him? I thought for a moment. Because he doesn't argue with me, unlike a certain annoying guy. His hand paused at the edge of my shirt. His perfect brows furrowed, anxious and hurt. Weren't you the one who said I shouldn't treat you like a fragile Omega? I froze, memories from our childhood flickering across my mind. His voice grew sad. In the future, I won't compete with you anymore. Is that okay? In over 20 years, I never imagined Henry would say something like that with that expression. I was honestly shocked, jaw-dropping shocked. Amnesia really is a wonderful thing. He finished speaking, looking awkward and shy, leaning in to kiss my ear and neck. Our breaths mingled, hands intertwined, and he guided me to explore him inch by inch. Is my body not as good as his? Or am I not as handsome as him? Or am I? His hand led mine further, and even though we'd been together countless times, his touch still set my heart on fire. My cheeks and neck flushed red, and my legs instinctively wrapped around his waist. Sometimes, attraction is just that simple and direct. A few days later, I took him for a follow-up at the hospital. The doctor said, "The clotted blood in his brain is almost gone. In a few more days, once it fully dissolves, the memory loss should disappear." I felt a soft pang of sadness. The gentle, vulnerable Henry was going to vanish. I didn't want that at all. He noticed me staring and turned, asking, "Why that expression? Am I in bad shape?" I shook my head. "You're fine. It's just, you won't get to be my little, side guy, for a few days anymore. Because you're about to be my husband again." I flopped into Henry's arms, not noticing any change in his expression. He held me tight, and all I could hear was his heartbeat. He murmured softly, "Your husband is back, and you won't even save the side role for me?" "What?" I tilted my head to look at him. He closed his eyes, gave a pale smile. "Nothing." I felt him tighten his embrace, as if holding on to the last ember of a fire he didn't want to lose. 9. A few days later, there was a press event for our new collaborative project. Isaac, as the head of the partner company's tech team, was there too. The media had entered early, and when I went on stage for interviews, it was streamed live. I answered all their questions smoothly. At the end, the reporters asked about relationships to hype the event. "George, you and your husband are well known as a power couple in the business world. Did you consult him before finalizing this project?" The "power couple" title felt a little ridiculous. It reminded me of our second year of marriage. There was a rainy night, attending a banquet. The car was parked 50 meters from the entrance. Henry and I walked side by side. He tilted his black umbrella toward me, covering me completely, even though his right shoulder got soaked. A photo was taken from behind. Henry slightly bowed his head, side profile showing a gentle smile, as if listening. I looked up at him, smiling, saying something playful. With a dramatic background story, the photo went viral online. People wrote captions like, "You don't just want anyone to walk through life with you. You want someone who shields you from the storm." Fans went wild, shipping us like crazy, convinced that true love exists in high society. But the real story behind that photo was, "Why do you take up so much of the umbrella? I'm tall." Just because you're tall and broad-shouldered, you have to be so selfish? Are you done? Who isn't? Umbrella covering, he nibbled my lip and leaned the umbrella further, pulling me into his embrace. Thinking of Henry now, I smiled softly. My husband really does give me guidance. In life, in business, he's always been there with advice and help. I'm grateful. And I love him. It was instinctive. After saying it, I felt a twinge of regret. I wondered how Henry would tease me once his memory fully returned. I sighed lightly, relieved that the live broadcast finally ended. Then I checked my phone. Home had blown up with calls. I panicked. The housekeeper rarely calls this much. My assistant looked anxious. "George. Henry, he's missing." Missing? I tried calling him, turned off. The housekeeper said they searched nearby, but no one was found. I decided to rush home immediately. My assistant tried to stop me. "George, there's a dinner with the partner company later. Cancel it for me." But I didn't wait to hear him out and dashed home in a panic. The housekeeper met me at the door. "Henry, after watching the live broadcast, he just zoned out for a long time. Then he left, and hasn't come back since." I frowned, thinking about where he might have gone. Not to his parents, they would have called. Not his brothers, no news there. Where else could he be? Then inspiration hit me. One place. Our secret hideout. When I rushed there, he was exactly where I expected, alone, sitting on the swing, looking so lonely. I instinctively slowed down, crouched in front of him, and looked up. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Why did you run out here by yourself? You're not divorcing him because you really love him, right? And with me, you don't actually feel anything, do you? You just used me like a tool, didn't you? Then he added softly, almost to himself. Of course, otherwise, why would you say you didn't want me if you actually did? His gaze was lowered, sadness practically made physical. Something blurred in my mind suddenly became clear. His memory had stopped at 21. So when he bought that Steinway, it was to get me to his house to play piano, right? And the riding lessons, he wanted to ride with me, didn't he? Even though he liked University B, he came to University A, just to be in the same school as me, right? I gripped his fingers firmly. You like me, don't you? Tears gathered at the corners of his eyes, redness faint around them. I can't like you anymore, George. You don't like me at all. His voice cracked with emotion. My heart clenched. I stood up and buried his face into my waist. His hands clung to my waist, refusing to let go. Warm tears dampened my clothes, and he whispered. What should I do? How can I stop feeling so sad? I stroked his hair gently. But inside, the way he looked so fragile, so broken, made my heart tingle. Henry like this, vulnerable and shattered, was dangerously attractive. I murmured softly. Let's go home. Come home with me, okay, baby? He lifted his head, eyes still faintly red from crying, voice husky and deeply sexy. That's not my home. I leaned down, kissed him, fingertips brushing his earlobes. Then, come with me. The car works too. I coaxed him into the car, cleaned him up, and somehow he ended up in my arms. This time. I didn't even ask for it. 11. The next morning, sunlight poured in. I stretched luxuriously, waking up feeling wonderful. The warmth and scent of the person in my arms was intoxicating. I nuzzled his chest, eyes still half closed. Good morning. Morning. His voice, steady, sharp. Something was off. I opened my eyes fully. Henry was leaning against the headboard, one hand supporting his head, the other slowly twirling the ends of my hair. Our eyes met. His gaze, sharp as autumn water, sent a shiver down my spine. Oh. This story is exclusively produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. I tried to get up, but he pinned me down. Running already? Afraid your husband might come back? And see his little side guy? The words, little side guy, were heavy, sharp. I chuckled. Husband, you've remembered everything, huh? I missed you. Cut it out. You know what you did. Before I could protest, his nose was nuzzling my sleepwear straps. I checked myself, yeah, my lower stomach twinged, definitely not ready for round 2. I pushed away his fluffy head. What did I do? I stayed with you the whole time you were sick. Yet some people were secretly in love with me all along. He froze a little when I said that. Still, you're beautiful. The soft, docile Henry I knew was gone. I leaned back on his chest, chatting lazily at the head of the bed. And for the first time, I realized, I missed him. The current him. Why didn't you confess to me back then? His voice was a little sour. You weren't in love with me back then, were you? Hey, don't be jealous. If it weren't for him, we might not have gotten married so quickly. How so? After our breakup, I went through a really painful period. One night, completely drunk, collapsed on the steps. Suddenly, a face appeared in my vision, blocking the stars. Henry reached out to touch my forehead. You sick. Rarely calm, I pushed his hand away. Henry, my love is dead. Don't you get it? He squatted over me, casually. Just dead? So what? Light as ever. When I woke up, I was in my own bed. My mom came in. What happened last night? You were trashed, and Henry said you chased him around outside biting his heels. Total lie. Absolutely false. But in my mind, Henry's teasing, mischievous eyes flashed. Just dead? So what? Light as ever. Well then, let your love die. I grabbed my mom's hand. I like Henry. Can you propose an alliance? My aunt and uncle adored me, probably very willing. Henry would be horrified, crying, complaining, losing his mind. Perfect. I waited at home, grinning at the thought of Henry's meltdown. A day later, they replied. They agreed. Wedding. My coffee spoon dropped. Oh no, this is spiraling out of control. What now? I had my mom propose the alliance, then I said I didn't want it. Henry would laugh so hard, he'd probably turn red. Dizzy and stunned, I arrived at the wedding. When exchanging rings, I snapped back to reality. Why didn't you refuse? He gave a momentary, awkward flash of expression. You wanted to gross me out, right? He smirked near my ear, whispering. Let's see who grosses out who now. If you cry and scream for a divorce, I won't agree. The priest's background words rang out. For better or worse, in sickness and in health, we shall love each other forever. I nudged his waist. So, should I thank Isaac? Amnesiac, he said, if you insist. He stood to get dressed. I watched his back, broad shoulders, golden sunlight spilling across him, skin smooth, hair turning gold in the light. I couldn't resist, hugged his waist tightly. Then a sudden question popped into my mind. Hey, at the start of freshman year, an Omega asked for your contact info. Did you give it? He squinted, smiling like a sly fox. I won't tell you. But back then, he pointed to me in the crowd. See that boy? That's the one I like.